And for those who don't know, explain what that is.
Okay, an ambigram, and it's kind of like, if you think of the word ambidextrous, it's amba and then gram, which is for word. And it's when a word can be inverted upside down or backwards, and it makes something new, and sometimes it's the same thing. The majority of the ambigrams that I create tend to turn into something different. And I think that's what makes it unique and have a little more meaning to it.
So ambigrams can be words or pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And your book that you have grew out of ambigrams, right?
Yes, it
Give us
did.
a little
Yes.
background of how the other side of Christmas got started.
Thank you. Okay, well, about 21 years ago, I was designing my Christmas card this particular year, and I had the idea to do an ambigram, which would be a picture of Santa one way and then upside down.
Okay, let's see if we can get a shot of that, of Santa there. Okay, that's Santa one way.
And then when it flipped upside down, it became Jesus. And that was the inspiration for the book. And I was with a friend, and she said, have you ever thought about doing an upside down book? Ann Jonas is one of the most famous of ambigram artists, and there's only about 100 worldwide that actually do this. So it's quite exciting. Ann Jonas is one of 5 that have done a book, so I'm one of 5, so that's kind of cool as well.
Is.
And so she said, well, why don't we see if there's some possibility there? And so I drew a couple of the pictures on a napkin in a restaurant. And sure enough, I turned it upside down. It became something else that had to do with the Christmas story. And that's when I thought, I think I have something here. I think this can actually work into a book.
That's wonderful. And you said there's only about 100 people in the world that have this skill or
Right.
talent, right?
Yes.
So you're a rarity in the world.
Apparently.
And we here in Lebanon. Yeah,
Yes,
that's-
and I found that out because there was an international book done on ambigram artists, and I was one of 94. So it doesn't list me as Beth Gully, Lebanon, Ohio, or even Ohio. I'm Beth Gully, USA. So that's quite an honor.
Do you know how many there are in the U.S.?
I do not. I could go back and count.
No,
but
I was just curious.
I would say maybe 60 or 70. You
Yeah.
know, the majority, my guess would be from the United States, but I don't know. And I know there's a lot more that are just undiscovered.
Right. And when did you discover you had this talent?
It was 2 years before I designed the Santa Jesus art. And I was working on my Christmas card that year again. And I decided to do the words Happy Holiday. And I drew out, you know, the words, and when I came back from lunch, it had fallen on the floor, and when I picked it up, I saw how the cursive Y upside down looked like a cursive H. So the Y in holiday could become the H in happy. And I thought, wow, this is kind of neat. And that's when I discovered my first ambigram and then gave it a name about 3 months later when I learned what an ambigram was.
Oh, wow.
So it was
this
totally
is-
by accident.
Okay. Well, when you were last on, your book was fairly new, and you drew for
Yes,
us and
yes.
performed. It was amazing to watch. Your distribution was very limited, and now it has just exploded.
It is.
So tell us a little bit about all the places that you get the books now. I mean, you've been busy.
Thank you. I have been busy because I'm keeping my BT Graphics business. You know, I'm still taking care of my clients, but always looking at opportunities with my books. So my book is now in 9 states. It's in 2 countries. It's up in Canada now. So we took a trip up there a few months ago and found a store that wanted to carry it, and it didn't even occur to me till after it happened that, oh my gosh, they just made me an international author. How neat. So I'm in California, Alabama. We just make phone calls to independent bookstores, and they're more likely to say yes because they want to see what's new and different out there, and they're not restricted to the big distributors that carry the books.
And I understand that you're also working on get it translated into Spanish.
I am. Had some interest in a Spanish version when I first came out with it, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, let me just get the first book done. And then I found that if I do translate into Spanish, there's so many more opportunities because not only do we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people here in the United States, but a lot of organizations I'm aware of go overseas, or not overseas, but down into other countries where Spanish is the main language, and they are mentoring to orphans and young children that have vulnerable futures. And so they want to bring hope to them, and they believe that this book can help do that.
Now, you've received several awards for your book. Tell us a little bit about them.
Thank you. Yes, I won an award up in Dayton, Ohio from a book publisher. Then I won a Gold Addy, which is a very prestigious award. I mean, in all my years being a graphic designer, I had not won a Gold Addy before. So this was just very exciting for me that my book would be recognized among other designers. And then it won a Gold International Summit Award. I believe that was this past spring. And that's judges all over the country recognizing, all over the world, recognizing not just the art form, but the content is being unusual and acceptable and unique to be given a gold.
Do you ever sit back and go, wow, how did this all happen? Or just feel...
No, I just keep going forward, because the more I keep focusing forward, the less I'll recede. So there's just so much that I want to do with this book, and I can't slow down.
That's great. And you even have a product line to go with a book. And you brought an example. You want to show?
I did. This is an ornament that I created with the Santa Jesus artwork. And it's Santa one way, and it's Jesus the other. And it can hang on your tree, and you can flip it around and just let that be a reminder of the book that you have under the tree of the message of the holiday.
Right, and this book, we explained it last year, but this book, if you can explain, it's a whole story, or two stories basically in one.
It is two stories in one.
If you can briefly explain
Sure.
the whole meaning of your book.
In a quick synopsis, it blends the Santa story with the Jesus story. So now you can see the shepherds in the manger with the baby Jesus. And then all of the pages inside, this one you've sort of seen, but all of the pictures on the inside flip upside down. And like this is hanging popcorn and ornaments on the tree. Can you see?
Yes, I can
And
see.
then when you flip it upside down, it becomes the wise men carrying the gifts to the baby Jesus.
Now, how should this book be read? Is this something that parents should read with their children all the way through one way and then turn it around? Or do they turn it around like you just did each way?
Well, the best thing to do is to read it all the way through, because the story is, it tells a story. You start with baking cookies with mom's baking the cookies, and then you go through the rest of the story, and then there is a turnaround page in the back, and that encourages you to turn the book upside down. And if I can pull it up here. So the text goes around, and it basically says, this story's not finished, we've just begun. Come follow the star to God's chosen one. And then that way it encourages the children then to turn it over. And the text is real easy to read. It all rhymes. It's very fun. And so I think it's a great way to help children learn to read if they're not reading by themselves. So I did have one mother tell me last year that it was like the 1st of March, and she said that every morning her child brings the book to her and says, Mommy, read the book again.
Oh, wow.
So I thought it just really warmed my heart. So
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of your book signings that are coming up, because I'm sure a lot of people will be wanting to get your signature on these books.
Thank you. Yes, I do have some book signings coming up. The one closest to town, Picture This, is doing one coming up. I think it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then the Golden Lamb, we're there on December 12th. And I believe that's 1 to 3. And you can always check my website. That has all the most current times. On Saturday, November 28th, I'm also going to be up at the Bookseller, which is at Austin Landing. So if anybody's listening from the Dayton area, that would be up in their area too.
And so if they wanted to go to your website to see your schedule, what is the website they should go to?
They should go to btgraphics.com.
Okay, and also if they wanted to see where any of the bookstores that have it, you mentioned that before you had it on a Facebook page.
Correct. I have a Facebook page called The Other Side of Christmas. So just go into Facebook, type all of that out, and up will come the page. It'll have all of the bookstores that are carrying the book. And right now there are 54 stores, and it's very exciting. Joseph Beth is probably one of my largest local booksellers carrying the book. And then some of the hospitals are doing really well with the sales as well. So.
Wow. Now there's an old saying for authors that you're only as good as your next book. Do you have another book in the works?
Actually, you asked me that last year, and I'm like, oh my gosh, couldn't even think about it. But sure enough, once the holiday was over last year, my mind opened up, the wall dropped, and I could actually consider the thought of an Easter book. So I'm about halfway through with the sketches, and I think there's a strong viability that I could have one for Easter 2017. So that's my goal.
That is. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how this book has changed your life, because you're now got this whole other area of your life that it's blossoming, isn't it?
It's funny. You would think that I would have expected this to happen, but I felt so goal-oriented just to get the book done. And if there's anybody out there that is also a writer and an author and they've put something on the back shelf, I encourage you, go ahead and finish it. And what I did is I just pushed and made myself complete it. And so I remember telling my husband, oh, thank goodness it's finally done. And he just quietly said, no, honey, it's just begun. And I had no idea what was to come. And it has been a whirlwind. And I'm having the time of my life. It's a wonderful journey.
What advice would you give to someone who is a writer or a graphic artist?
Okay, I would say work on it every single day. What happens is when you only work on it every now and then and you let other things get in the way, you start to procrastinate. And the wall between you and that other project that you don't have to work on, the wall just gets bigger and bigger, and it's harder to cross over that. So what happened to me 2 months before I finished my book, I said, okay, every day I'm going to do something on the book, even if it's just 5 minutes or if it's 3 hours. I'm going to do something every single day, and it kept that wall from growing, and it kept me being able to stay connected to it. And who knows? I mean, it took me 8 years to get it done. If I had had that mindset in the beginning, it would have been done, 8 years ago.
And
so,
is that wall down now that you're working on a second book? So it hasn't come back up.
I'm just preoccupied right now. So yeah.
What would you say is like the most interesting comment that someone has said to you about your book?
Wow. Oh my gosh. I think nothing is coming to mind. This is really bad.
No.
Other than they're shocked, they're stunned, that whole jaw to the ground, and that look of awe and inspiration. It's just, there's nothing like watching somebody see a picture flip over for the first time. And,
And sometimes, you have to look at it for a little bit and think, how did I miss that from the other side? And when you had it published, what was the process for you getting it published?
I self-published, and I just found a printer that I had worked with in the past. As a graphic designer, I do annual reports. I know the importance of creating a piece that is perfectly printed, the bleeds are right, off the edges, the gutters match up. That's the part where the picture comes together, where the folds are. And I selected a printer that could meet that and also could give me a good price. I also definitely wanted to stay local, if not definitely in the United States, because my book is copyrighted. All the pictures are copyrighted through our U.S. copyright, and they would be very vulnerable outside of the country. So I think about those things when I do my other products.
Well, congratulations again for a very eventful first year. And I guess, as your husband said, this is just the beginning, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about it in the future.
Thank you very much.